nuevamente al aire, vuelve al aire, su volumen y sus tonos independientes. ¿Listo? No pueden estar las dos al tiempo.
welcome everyone for this one, our first Embedded Finances Forum for the National Federation of Business Owners, Fenalco. We appreciate your presence today, where Fenalco starts working with financial technologies in Colombia and involves all the different people involved in commerce in the country. This is a very ambitious project that would like to put the financial services to an inclusive, to be inclusive. We will be in this very interesting agenda that will finish at around 11:30 a.m. We'll start. I'm going to welcome Luisa Fernanda Ballén, who works with Fenalco Bogotá, Cundinamarca, who will start with introducing our guests today. And of course, we thank everyone who's here today. And of course, we appreciate the big interest that this has raised with everyone. The 2F FinTech, FinTech. Luisa, welcome. How does this agenda start? What is this 2F FinTech and what's embedded finances? Mauricio, thank you. It's lovely to see you. It's good to see all the business owners today that are joining from different areas in Colombia and the world. On Fenalco's behalf, I want to welcome everyone. We want to remind everyone that Fenalco is the National Federation of Business Owners most important in the country. We have over 18,000 business owners, big and small. And here is the guild that represents them in front of the country. I want to welcome everyone in this space. It's a very important space where there's a lot of changes. For that, I want to leave you with Jaime Alberto Cabal San Clemente. He is president of Fenalco, and he'll welcome everyone. And he will talk about the importance of this process that we're starting today, that doesn't involve just only commerce, but also the financial environment of the country. Mr. Jaime Alberto, welcome. Thank you, Luisa. I want to say hello to everyone who's here today. I want to welcome everyone and to thank you for coming here today to listen to all of us talking about embedded finances. It starts a change that's going to happen in our country. I would like to say that we are at the start of big changes here in our country in terms of all the finances in our country. Very different to what's happened before with traditional banks and other institutions. Of course, Fenalco has always wanted to start the initiative to introduce this new financial and economic model. And that's why we are looking for strategic allies that have a very clear vision, not only of what's happening in our country, but also in the future, where we're going, where the world is going, and of course, where we want our country to go to in terms of how we're going to finance and we're going to connect the financial sector with the economic sector. It's also important to understand the concept of embedded finances. It's the integration of non-financial and financial products in technological platforms that can redefine the reach that the businesses can have. Also important to talk about inclusion and symbiosis of finances and technology. We want to use AI and the information of end users so that we can close the gaps in very short terms. Embedded finances allow business owners to have very competitive advantages without being limited to their geographical location. We want to reach the global markets, and we need to understand that that's very competitive. The future is now, and we invite you to join this revolution that we're creating so that we can all be involved in embedded finances and be part of the change that is now transforming the way that we do business now. We are in a very decisive moment where including financial technologies is crucial for businesses in the short and long term. Thank you, Mr. Cabal, for your words. And from the participation from Fenalco Bogotá Cundinamarca is crucial. We want to invite Juan Esteban Orrego. He is the Executive Director of Fenalco Bogotá, and he'll tell us about how commerce is preparing to lead the national agenda in Colombia. Luisa, thank you so much. Welcome everyone to this event that we have been waiting for a long time. We think that we are changing the way that clients and end users are working with businesses. We're talking about open data, AI, and from Fenalco, we're starting to enter into this world. We're talking about embedded finances and Fenal FinTech that we're going to talk about today, where we're going to be reaching out to business owners, and business owners will reach their end users, and we're talking about over 2 million commerces, mom and pop shops around the country that are working with us and that we don't necessarily see everywhere in the world. But we need to understand that in a couple of years, everyone in the world will be part of embedded finances. So welcome today. We hope that we will be able to have an alliance that's important. And even if we have a difficult situation from the economic side and the social side, we are going towards a very important change in the future. We will talk about why commerce will lead the change in the national market and why embedded finances are so important in Colombia. That's why we're going to talk to Rafael España. He's the financial director in Fenalco, and he'll talk about the commerce and how it can transform the world in all its layers. Mauricio, on top of being the financial director at Fenalco, he is also a public speaker worldwide. He has written a lot of articles for magazines, newspapers in terms of economics and finances. He has received the Simón Bolívar Prize in Economics. And so I want to welcome him, Mr. Rafael España. Welcome, and the floor is yours. Thank you, everyone who's listening in. It's a very interesting topic. As a financial director at Fenalco, it's really good, and I'm very glad to talk to everyone here, all the investors and allies that we have and about how commerce has so much to provide. This project, FinTech, is very important, very decisive, and we really want to push it forward. Thank you, everyone, of course, and we'll talk about some ideas that we hope are interesting for you. And we really are just putting our best efforts into this. We'll talk about commerce, and of course, the first thing that we need to recognize, unfortunately, is that Colombia's economics last year wasn't very good. Like we can see, we didn't have a much what we expected of growth, but there were three sectors that were important, that were commerce, construction. Those didn't do very well. However, Colombia in Latin America is one of the countries that have had the lowest number of recessions in the last 100 years, 100 and something years. Around 1930, 31, during the crisis of the 30 years, we had pretty bad time. In 99, we also had a bad year, and of course in 2020 during the pandemic. Compared to, say, Argentina or Venezuela, it's very important to highlight the difference. Colombia has really worked with cities. In terms of Latin America, we have a lot of cities. There are about 15 cities that have over 500,000 people living in them. That only happens in Brazil. Surprisingly, in Argentina, only 6 cities have over 500,000 inhabitants. And that's very important so that we can release massive products because of the number of people in the cities compared to other countries. So that's something important to keep in mind. This century, we have advanced quite a bit as well. For instance, people from lower incomes, according to CEPAL, for instance, there were about 40%, and in the 2000s, they went to the 30%. And before the pandemic, we went to 13%. Vulnerable people who are around lower income and middle income families are about 34%, but middle class is more than 50% of the population. That really opens up to different opportunities for new products, because the middle class is really who is sustaining democracy in a country. And it's a very important achievement that we need to keep in mind in terms of social development. It's true that economics are not necessarily going the way we want to, but there's something that business owners and academics are deciding now, and that we could put into practice. Government might be a little reluctant to do this, but we need to lower interest rates. We have to create more stimuli and support the private sector. We have to execute faster public expenses. We have to strengthen our relationships with investments. We also need to send signals to the financial sector worldwide that we do respect financial and fiscal rules. Of course, inflation really went down in February, very important decrease, and hopefully the central will reach the goal of 4% that the central bank has put. Hopefully we'll activate projects in terms of infrastructure and of course to stimulate formal employment. So hopefully if we can reach this, if we can go through all of this, we'll get back on track in terms of growth for our economy.
Now we have 7.7% of inflation, and there has been, and it has been decreasing lately. It's going the right way, and this means probably during this month of March, the Bank of the Republic, as we call it, that may lower the reference rates, as we have seen before, when the inflation decreases significantly. Sales aren't really doing well, as we can see on the graph. It's been like this for the past around 8 months. During the past year, formal commerce and retailers have decreased their sales. We're talking about this index. And those happy moments are a thing of the past, that those moments of two-figure growth, like what we had somehow in 2022 as a rebound effect from the pandemic. We have to acknowledge that sales aren't doing that great, and we're hoping that the confidence around the end of this year will have a slight positive growth, and we hope that we will have a greater confidence from business owners and consumers, and of course having more bank credit put in the power of companies and consumers. Not every sector in commerce is doing bad. Some of them are growing in an acceptable way, like for example drinks and cosmetics. Those are doing great, but the ones that aren't doing great have this common denominator, which are the ones that you get via credit, like cars, appliances, phones, things for home renovations. Those are not doing great, and that's why we need for the inflation to lower, and also the interest rates. Here we can see how the reference rates from the central bank is decisive to show banks how much they should be charging their clients. We were able to lower this enough during January, and we aspire during this month of March, before Holy Week, we are expecting for the central bank to launch this very decisive, very positive signal to lower the interest rates. And if that happens, that will translate almost immediately on the rates that banks are going to be charging. We can see it has been decreasing from April last year, where it was over 40%, now it's much lower. So there's some hope to stimulate people buying homes. How are bank rates doing? There's a notorious acceleration, especially in commercial credit, like loans to companies, and consumer credit has fallen 2.39% last year. And there's been some deterioration during the past period for consumer credit, and this is something that we cannot hide. But the safety blanket that we have in Colombian bank sector means there's no chance to have financial crisis. Banks are taking care of these resources that are not that don't belong to them. And there's this improvement that's slight but notorious. And we're hoping that this situation will improve. There's something very interesting that I would like to share with you, which is contrary to what we might think, seeing what happens in Canada or the US, is that consumer purchases on e-commerces aren't that relevant in the total as you might think. We have this graph from the statistics institution called DANE. We can see the sales via e-commerce among the total of modern retail are not over 3%. So there's this question, why is this proportion so low, considering there's such huge availability of smartphones and internet access from consumers? So I want to share that Mercado Libre, based in Argentina, they presented to us last year with this very interesting result of why in Colombia these e-commerce sales are not that huge here in Colombia. Why are people not using these channels more often or more enthusiastically? Why they don't buy that much online? This is very interesting to me to see that Colombians, we are very sensitive. We are very perception-oriented. We see with our five senses. And we want to watch things, experience them, try them, touch them, like to have another person help you, serve you. And this is a very interesting thing that we could base on, because Colombia has this physical store culture, which differs from what happens in the US, for example, where they talk a lot about retail apocalypse. And we see very frequently, we have all this news that these big retailers like Target or Costco or Macy's, they are closing, shutting stores, like their physical stores. But here in Colombia, we don't have this trend. And we do have a lot of physical malls, physical stores where we can go. And it's just different from what it's happening in the US. Here in Fenalco, we have this recurrent survey where we examine how commerce is going. And we asked our affiliates. This is a very interesting thing. We have around 18,000 affiliates. Not all of them participate in the survey, but they tell us. We have like these most recent results. They haven't even been published yet because it's very recent. We finished on February 12th, and we have these results in here. So the biggest problem that business owners have now here is related to the low demand and the low consume. That's one of the problems that's more cited among business owners. There are problems in credit costs. Those could perhaps lower a bit. Here in Colombia, we have at a small but relevant scale, there's scarcity of qualified personnel, and this affects also American companies. They have the Great Demission, and here we can already be talking about these structural issues, considering how, like the access we have to qualified personnel. And that's how it goes. We can see that basically what we need, like we as business owners need, is to have this stimulus to consume, because we feel that there's a very low demand for these products and these services that Colombian business owners are offering. It's very good to reiterate the importance of commerce in Colombian economy, the importance of Fenalco, which is this guild that associates Colombian business Colombian business people in Colombia. We have this very long story, over 70 years, and that's a very important institutional strength. There are so many corner stores, thousands of corner stores, and this is very important to us. We are in over 54 sectors. It's very, very specialized. We have, for example, funeral services that have businesses affiliated, or mattresses of private security. Like, just to mention some ones that are quite different from the usual ones, like these great department stores and supermarkets. So there's a lot of offices throughout the country, 28. This is a very important piece of information because this offers a lot of opportunities for expansion. So we represent Colombian businesses in front of public powers, and Colombian business owners appreciate this. We highlight the importance of commerce, aside from what's widely known. I think there's something that's not well enough known, which is that commerce is the great facilitators of Colombian families to acquire consumer goods, durable and semi-durable. Some things that otherwise would be out of reach for many people, because there are many very remote places where people don't really have that much facilities to buy refrigerators, TVs. So these businesses help them, because they not only reach the place where these people live, but they also offer credit. In Colombia, there's a very important percentage of homes that have access to refrigerators. So data from our DANE Institute showed that 85% or so of the homes in our country, even in very remote areas, have a refrigerator and washing machines. These are a topic. Like almost 2 in 3 homes do own a washing machine, and I, as a joke, say that it's very hard to, for example, to wash your bed sheets by hand. So having a washing machine at home that increases and improves your quality of life. And part of the reason why this could happen is because we have like these businesses that stimulate this consummation here in the country. The role of commerce is decisive in stimulating economy, because these business owners are taking the risks of investing, opening their businesses in very, very remote areas. So we have this project in Fenalco that's very closely related to this social and economic work that's very beautiful in stimulating financing. And we assume some costs, some risks, where the provisions go the wrong way. And during the pandemic, when some businesses could continue on business by taking their goods to their consumers on time, even when there is social unrest, there's protests and problems with transportation, business owners are able to find alternative ways, even by the rivers, to take their products even to hard-to-reach places of our country, offering these opportunities to provide what is needed there. This is, I think, a very interesting piece of data, which is in Colombia, traditional channels stay very relevant. They are like the crown jewel. Like at a Latin American level, Colombia has this very similar structure to Mexico, considering how how commerce is structured. So supermarkets are very important. It's like 50%. Even hard discounters, as we call them here, they have been growing a lot during the past few years. But however, the corner shops stay very, very relevant. They have very special needs. They are this sort of seed of. We have like these very kind people. I must say that corner shops are usually they usually have female workers helping their customers, and this is a very important social aspect of this. But the corner shop is a very informal sort of business, and this is the great provider of consumer goods, massive consumer goods that most homes are usually buying. Over 40%, which is very relevant. So these business owners need to improve and to make progress. They need to be competitive. They want to diversify their businesses. And I think that's music for the ears of those who are listening to us, potential investors of this beautiful project, Fenal Fintech. Corner shop from their little corner can become a great ally to commercialize services and products that a low-income consumer, probably lacking in the adequate channels, cannot have access to, like concerts, sports events, buying the lotto. I think there is a very interesting opportunity over there. I think corner shop owners are not escaping from technology. They consider they need to further technify their businesses to have this leap towards formalization and growth. I think this is very interesting and very important to highlight, because business owners of these corner shops are not afraid anymore of social media. The most popular app right now is WhatsApp. It's part of their daily life, and they make very interesting use of this app. I think it's very important to look closely at this, have a closer look at this commercialization channel. I think this has a lot of potential. And we also need to consider customer satisfaction. Maybe I would like to ask you to answer to yourself, what is the difference between a satisfied client and one who is speechless, like who's beyond satisfied, someone who's really impressed? Maybe is that location, is that good prices, like conventional marketing text tend to highlight location. They say that the success of a business is their location. But now that we have all these different channels, this is questionable. What's the difference between this satisfied client and this speechless client? Our hypothesis is that that difference lies in emotion. I think this Fenal Fintech project is going that way. We're trying to create this wow, this admiration, and this stunning our clients, offering their services at a very fast pace and with very moderate costs that will leave them beyond satisfied. This is very important. In the case of malls, which, by the way, are mass affiliates to Fenalco, and we have lots of services like qualifications for these clients, for these affiliates, and we also show them the trends here in Colombia, in Latin America, in Europe, and in the US. They have seen a very interesting structural change thanks to the fact that they are living as speechless. They don't want to see clients, they want to see happy citizens, and many of them are achieving this. If we had a look too at the risk balance for this year in Colombia, some elements that will positively impact and negatively impact the way economy and businesses go We can highlight the ones that you're seeing on the screen. The first place, we have this institutional strength that is bulletproof. We are an example at a Latin American level. We have this Congress that has shown to be independent. We have this autonomy in institutions, which gives us a lot of peace to economists and business owners here in Colombia, that regardless of the ideology of the president who's in office, the central bank has these very clear guidelines to represent the people.
We have seen an interesting point where we are breathing a lot better in terms of inflation and credit costs. The financial sector is doing a lot better. The requirements of the financial sector and lawmakers are a lot better. They're quite covered. The finance sector is quite covered. After 2008, after that very violent crisis, especially in the US, that got really extinguished a lot of companies, affected a lot of different countries like Spain. But here in Colombia, we had pretty decent liquidity levels. That's something very important for us here in Colombia. And of course, the world recession is slowly fading away. So that is very, very good in Japan, in the US, in Brazil, Mexico, that influence us a lot. There's a few negative aspects, of course. Like the escalation of different geopolitical conflicts. El Niño is also slightly, it's living there, it's breathing down our necks, of course. We can't forget about it. Here in Colombia, Congress, we're talking about some reforms that the government is pushing forwards to health, to retirement. Of course, we've been looking at those reforms, and sometimes we think that those reforms might affect negatively the country. So we're just fighting that. We're talking, of course, academically, supporting with arguments, so that that reforms takes the best decisions for the country. Of course, we've seen that in terms of credit, this is in standby. Credits have lowered, of course, and the quality of the portfolio the financial portfolio has been reduced. And of course, the work market has not increased the way we wanted to in the past year, but we're working on everything. And it corresponds to us as business owners to see the best ways to manage this, what we've got, and we can't really choose our boat or the sea that we're sailing, but we can have different ideas like these ones where we can choose our best sails so that we can reach safe ports. So this comes from Fedesarrollo. It's a think tank, and their director was sharing these ideas with us. that whilst we have a complex economic situation, we do have very important growth opportunities. For instance, we've seen that soft landing for our economy. So we're looking at a bigger growth for this year compared to last year. We have interest rates that are a lot lower than last year's. We don't see hyper devaluation. Even oil will stay at some acceptable levels. We won't see big changes in prices for oil. So we'll try to normalize our relationships, hopefully, with our neighbor Venezuela. And we want, hopefully, to find important economic ways with them so that we can maybe establish better communication with them despite their fragile political situation. We saw in the first slides, for the past 100 years, we haven't had more than 4 processes of recession or decreasing of our economics, contrary to what has happened in countries like Brazil, Venezuela, or Argentina. And of course, our geological location is strategic. We are the only country that has ports in both in 2 seas. We're hours away from Miami. So this allows us to create value worldwide. It could be very interesting to examine. That's a little bit of what I wanted to share with you. We have a final message that's quite hopeful. There's a few chains that sometimes just bind us and don't let us advance, but sometimes it's just something in our minds. It's not really physical, and we can get rid of those binds, and we definitely can find fantastic allies and investors that could really help us and could be great allies for Colombia, for Fenalco, and for business owners in Colombia, and of course for consumers. So thank you very much. Mr. España, thank you so much for what you've shared with us. And it's very clear for us why commerce is what joins the world and why we can move so many things, and is a key role player for embedded finances in Colombia. That's why we'll talk later on. We'll have a Q&A session so that the Sugestión company will share with us how you, business owners in Colombia and around the world, because let's remember that we have Colombian business owners and overseas business owners can be allies for Fenalco and can help us push forward embedded finances here in Colombia. So let's look forward to that. Now let's continue with our agenda. Mauricio will tell us what's going next. We'll continue with our academic agenda, talking about local government, national government in terms of infrastructure, technological ecosystems, sustainability, and legislation that allows for new technologies to improve, like embedded finances and open finances. That's why we're very glad to invite a very important guest. Luisa, let us know who this is. Mauricio, she's not just, she is not a she, it's a he. This is Guillermo Alarcón. He's the development director. He is an economist and a master for political finances. And he'll talk about how this project is not just a project for Fenalco, but also how this is an important opportunity to create synergies with the public sector and how they are also betting on this project. So Guillermo, thank you so much, and go ahead. Luisa, thank you so much. I would like to say I am extremely glad to be here. I really want to thank everyone, all the allies for Fenalco, all the business owners, everyone who is connected here today. I want to point out that as the developer for the business sector and employment development, to talk about homes in our city and just commerce in our city, embedded finances are really important. Embedded finances are a very innovative platform that allows for accessibility and that are doing something key socially. They make all services a lot more accessible for users and for end consumers, and can include anyone who is working in the informal ways to be included in everything that's formal. So we can include everyone in this business network. We think they are key to create development economically and in terms of work. That's why we're very committed, and we're opening our doors so that there's more Bogotanos involved. There's also very important potential in terms of closing gaps, bridging gaps, and in that trek, we're all starting from different points, and of course there's people who have more opportunities than others. So technology like this one allows that any individual, regardless of their origin, to easily participate in economy using the benefits that technology has and what the formal financial sectors have. Informal financing can be dangerous, and of course embedded finances are an ally so that we can get rid of these risks. Embedded finances also bring important tools to commerce and business owners so that they can everyone can use and can benefit from embedded finances. I think, of course, if we work together, we can build an ecosystem that can include embedded finances for all our business owners, everyone in the shops, in the corner shops, all Bogotanos, resources that allows us to grow and be more competitive. Of course, the biggest strategy that we have is to include the district in this project. The capacity that this tools have to close those gaps and to contribute that we are a better city, that we are more modern, that we are more inclusive. And that's why I want to invite everyone to join this effort and to be pioneers for change and to push commerce with these technologies. And I want to thank everyone. I want to thank you so much for your intervention, and I want to invite everyone, as he was saying, you are pioneers and you are the ones who we invite to push forward all these projects, like Guillermo Alarcón was saying. And this embedded finances project that is going to be very important not only for commerce but also for the financial world around the country. We also want to remind everyone that we will have a Q&A section at the end of our session. So Luisa, could you remind us what channels do we have open for the viewers so that they can share their questions or they can sign up if they are interested in participating? In our chat, you can write your questions. You can find the window on the right-hand side or the bottom of your screen. That depends on where you are joining from, which device. So if you just find our chat window, you can type in any questions, any ideas that you have, and we can share and we can answer those questions in our Q&A session. We want to make sure that all your questions are answered so that you can be part of this project, so that you can take a better informed decision, and so that we can properly push forward this project of embedded finances. So very easy. You can type in your question in our chat in YouTube and we'll answer to them later on. We'll continue with our conference about transformation in the next 5 years, in charge of Rodrigo Garcia de la Cruz, CEO and founder of the FinTech Association in Europe and CEO of Finnovating. Rodrigo is one of the main leaders in the finance technologies. He's been connecting the FinTech world worldwide for the past 15 years. He's part of the European Digital Association and the Spanish FinTech Association. He also is the founder of Finnovating, the first AI platform that connects over 100,000 startups, health tech, fintech, in around 180 countries, and investors. He has founded a few different fintech that we know today, and he has participated in a lot of fintech ventures, and he has worked in Citibank before, Renault, in robot creation and development. So Mr. Rodrigo Garcia de la Cruz, welcome here today, and I'll leave you with our viewers. Go ahead. Mauricio, thank you so much for your presentation and your introduction. It's been a pleasure to be here today and to be able to talk about embedded finances today and to talk about fintech sector. Thank you very much, and I hope you like it. If we talk about disruption of the business sector, I've participated in different ones, so it's very good for me to be able to share. I know that some of you already know me. I've been working for over 12 years in the fintech sector. I am co-founder of a fintech crowdfunding. I'm also CEO of Finnovating. I will tell you later on what that's about. I've worked with Banco Santander and I've worked with Citibank. I've worked with InsurTech as well. I am co-founder of different fintech associations like the Spanish one, the European and the Ibero-American one. And of course, worked with different initiatives. I'll talk about the 7 tendencies in the fintech sector and the finance sector. This would be the summary that will jump to and from AI, collaboration. So we'll see all the different ones. So how's capital? When we'll recover? So from 2016 to 2021, investment in fintech has been the biggest one in other areas. You'll see in blue and in yellow, you'll see the APOs. We've had a record of 1 trillion that went down for about a half in 2022. And for 2023, went down a little bit again. However, this is a very important number of investment, and it's the biggest sector in technology that has mobilized and has received investments. It's possible that the change in investment could fluctuate in the next couple of years, of course. Our biggest challenge, I think, is regulation, because globally, in Europe and the Anglo-Saxon world, we're talking about crypto laws, and say Latin America, we need to talk about laws for fintech, for open data, for open banking, because regulation can be an accelerator. And of course, that could change how we do our investments. Of course, into everything related to globalization, we need to understand that fintech is a global sector. We need to understand big regions, but of course, worldwide, we have about 50,000 fintech companies, or that are somewhat related to the technology and financial sectors. So we need to understand that this is an incredibly global sector. Like I was mentioning before, I am co-founder of the European Fintech Association and the Ibero-American Alliance, that are the Ibero-American and European alliances, but I also have worked in a global alliance that includes Asia and Africa, so that we can connect the ecosystem like we've never seen before. Collaboration in the fintech sector has always been very present, especially where banking is a bit lower. Like in this infographic, you can see that the services that any financial entity can offer or that we can integrate with their clients. This is part of the present, but also of the past. We see that there are more collaborative companies worldwide. And this is a study that we've done before, where we can see all the companies that have worked the most with the fintech sector. A big percent is the financial sector, but there's another 60% that is technology companies, security companies, insurance, real estate, data and analytics. There's another big volume of companies that are also collaborating with fintech companies. Within these solutions, we can also see that the biggest sectors that are being attracted for fintech usually are related to embedded finances or lending, crypto, or other types of payments. Although, of course, the embedded includes more and more sectors and more companies as we go. We could just not keep talking about AI in 2023 and 2024. And that means we've had a paradigm change. It's coming to stay. And this is a screenshot of our platform, Finnovating. There are over 300 companies that work with fintech and AI. And in Colombia, we can also talk about it's a very important volume of companies that are doing this, working with AI, which is very innovative. We're talking about like OpenAI and a lot of different startups that are also using AI. We have a lot of time to see how this will change, but definitely it's coming in to stay. But before it makes us, it just gets rid of us. There's plenty for us to do in the meantime in terms of AI. In terms of business models, the evolution within the fintech sector is also important. I would also like to talk about the different waves of fintech. First, that financial inclusion wave, then generating different business models where we offer different solutions to different financial inclusions. Now we are not only looking at inclusion, but also democratization of financing. This, of course, happens in more developed markets like Europe and the US. And companies show up that allow for access to services or financial opportunities that otherwise we would not be able to. Say we couldn't invest in real estate, from 50 euro. You have to put towards a fund that will later on allow you to access. Then the last one, and that's the topic that we're really touching in this forum, is embedded finance. That B2B inclusion, where fintechs have gone from a competitor to be a collaborator and a provider for financial services in different sectors wherever they are based. We can also be that evolution from B2C to B2B, and we'll see that a little bit more later on, what we understand as embedded finance. We also need to understand that it's a sector that's constantly changing. We've got about 600 fintech companies just in Colombia. But of course, there's more and more companies growing and showing up. We have companies that have different solutions for embedded finance. There's over 11,000, over 400 between fintechs, protechs, only in Colombia. There's companies that, of course, are working in different sectors, but also offer embedded services. The SaaS world is this natural evolution from all the technological companies. It's a subscription model that allows for us to access services that don't need us to install any program. Say we don't buy Office and we have to install every single program. Now we just buy a subscription, say like Microsoft or Netflix, and now we're allowed to use their service. So this allows for new models, and allows for companies to expand a lot faster and the user to have updates and security at a faster pace and a bit easier access. We've got two verticals like banking service, credits as a service, lending as a service. All these different services from the financial sector that could be directly accessed as a service. We don't have to buy a credit service or a card itself or an activity, but we're buying a service. We pay a subscription, whether it's daily, annual, monthly cost. We can have access to that information, those updates, etc. From SaaS, we see that evolution to embedded finance, where all the different sectors can be involved and have nothing to do with the financial sector per se, but still we need to make payments, we need to work with payrolls, we need to create invoices, etc. Whatever you need, regardless of your sector, the embedded finance is coming in to digitalize and provide those financial services. And of course, there's different tendencies for house banking, for neobanking, in terms of payroll, wallets, buy now, pay later. It's a very wide, almost infinite space. And this is the last tendency.
And it responds to these needs. We have to connect these needs. One of these trends in 2024 will be the need to connect these solutions through these B2B platforms. And when a company also wants to offer their services of embedded finance or SaaS to third parties, they often have these issues with these LinkedIn contacts, and events aren't that efficient either. So we have been trying to integrate these companies and take them to offer their services, this embedded finance and SaaS services. We have created this B2B organic platform. It's for free as well and open. And we aren't limited to one company. We have connected many companies. And we are trying to offer, to meeting these needs of these companies and giving them access to decision makers of the companies that represent this sector. As of today, we have broken this 30,000 barrier of companies in different countries, the ones that were using embedded finance. And we have created these new connections amongst companies, and we have been mentioned by the CBC as one of the top 25 Global Digital Solutions 2023. We are the company, or one of the companies, that were chosen for this as the most disruptive and with the greater impact in 2023 because of this B2B application. And to resume, we have this regulation which has become an accelerator, and it's also helping to accelerate the capital coming in. This is not a local thing. The collaboration can happen between different companies from different countries. They don't have to be in the same place. You can give your services from one country to another. AI is an accelerator of all of these cross services. Collaboration is key. And this base is based on these new business models that are appearing, and they are participating in embedded finance. And we have all these companies and these platforms that we do at Finovating. I would like to close with these key points. If you wanna go fast, or if you think you can go fast. But if you want to really go far, you cannot be alone. And in the fintech sector and in technology or innovation sector, you need to collaborate. We need to be able to help the small companies, pymes, and the small and big companies to integrate their embedded finance solutions so they can be more efficient, more sustainable, more digital oriented, and also to have a greater capacity to compete in their sector. Thank you very much for this invitation. It has been a pleasure to be here in this session. You have here my contact details. If you have any additional queries, and you're welcome to Finnovating platform, and see you later. Thank you very much, Rodrigo de la Cruz, for your very interesting intervention. We hope you will be here with us at different times in the future, because embedded finance will we have a central role here in the financial sector of our country. Now, to finish, we are going to open the panel, which is operating the most powerful levers. And in this space is where we are going to delve into greater detail to this process, where Fenalco will choose the ally that will go with us into this project. Luisa, please let us know who's going to be with us and what's their participation. Yes, Mauricio, as we have been announcing throughout this forum, Fenalco will have to choose and pick the best ally to develop this pioneer alliance and collaboration model for the chaining of services and products that are financial and non-financial at a digital level and at a not imagined before scale, supported by AI. This business model that can be operated by a financial leader, that can be a strategic ally, that will share our common vision to see that here is where great opportunities lie in this new economy, an ally that is willing, together with Fenalco, to mark this new boundary and to expand this inclusive market. So we are going to open this panel. This is Project 2F, Fenal FinTech, operating the most powerful levers of the next decade. This is all wanting to pick this strategic ally. And this is where we are going to know more about the step-by-step of this process for companies that are interested, regardless of being from Colombia or anywhere else in the world, that they reach out to Fenalco and let us know you want to participate in this selection process of a strategic ally. I don't want to tell you who the experts are, but I'm going to let you know who the moderator is going to be. This is this economist, journalist, professor that's going to let us know the dynamic. So I'm giving the floor to Silverio. It's a pleasure to have you here. Please let us know who the experts in this panel are. Thank you, Luisa. And before I go on to introduce the panelists, please let me tell you, this is the way that we can take theory to practice. And we have invited these three experts in the finance world, banks, and financial regulation, and this whole topic of embedded finance. Beatriz is specialized in credit. She has over 20 years experience in financial entities. She is the LATAM director of Ciclo de Riesgo, Risk Cycle magazine, and she is a consultant for several companies in structuring new business models and the reinvention of their operation. Regarding credit, And she also helps organizations in commercial organization, like Altec, this German bank that works with the KfW. Carlos Botero is an industrial engineer from the Andes University. He has over 20 years experience as well in investment bank, portfolio administration, and corporate finances. He has worked in director positions, and now he works with companies under the regulation of the superintendency. Now he works in different projects of investment banking. We have Luis, who is a lawyer from the Javeriana University. He's a specialist in negotiation and international relations and in investment banks. He has a very long experience, over 35 years in the financial sector. He was the president of Finagraria and a member of this regular entity in the market, in the value market. He was the vice president of development in a bank, in 2 banks, and he was also administrative president of the disappeared financial fostering institute. I think this is very important to further delve into the concept of embedded finances. This example that will help us illustrate financial embedded finance connect really everything that can be embedded. And this day-to-day example, we have, for example, Fenalco, that is now announcing and creating this great expectation, this event, Bogotá Despierta, which happens on, say, whichever special date. All the business owners have to have their businesses open, hopefully 24 hours, and this comes with great demands of work capital. And for bigger companies, it's maybe easier to have these double shifts, but for smaller business owners like bakers, for example, it's harder because sometimes single parents need to find someone who babysit the children, and this becomes harder for them. So, for example, if in these small stores don't have it's not easy for them, and then they find this offer that it can help them finance these longer offers. So we have these products like credit offers. So in embedded finance, we can have different lines of credit. This doesn't apply, but we can even have mortgages. We have every line, B2B, B2C. Even this new product, payroll. And we are making they are making all these services available, their whole offer, like you need for a baker, they need the eggs, the flour, everything. They need to open their bakery for 24 hours. So, for example, if someone's going to buy, if going to sell for 24 hours in Bogotá, where there's a lot of unsafety, you take the credit, and you also need an insurance prime, because you're going to need it. Or if you have your scooter and you have to go into the streets of Bogotá during the night, you need to have your insurance. So there you are getting a second product, and everything is activating through this scheme. So we have also B2B products, like, for example, that baker will be, we hope everybody is going to have invoices, and when we get these resources, this income, when you have everything in the same app, you can have like some ease to save those resources instead of just using them up instantly. So you can have these midterm or long-term or short-term, savings. And we can keep going and going deeper into how everything is moving through this scheme. And we can also have things like reservations in restaurants or reservations in with better offers, with lower credit rates and sales insurances, and also the parking lot where you're going to park your scooter. And we can talk about things about your holidays and entertainment products. So all the things that an app like this allow to happen is beyond our imagination.
We'll also jump into the topic of products. Carlos, what role does the ally for Fenalco will have compared to the financial sector or traditional institutions, banking institutions? Silvia, to answer your question, the most subtle thing is to do a parallel of the traditional structure that we understand and that we know they have a front office where they capture the client, they have a middle office where they look at profiles and guarantees, and then a back office that provides the service to the user. In embedded finances, the front, middle, and back operate immediately, not sequentially, but immediately. The user is captured straight away. The app with its models will then generate the profiling and the necessary guarantees, and then the backend will also be provided. Everything is instantaneous. Our ally in the structure has to do the middle and back office, whilst Fenalco will do the usual tasks of a front office. In that front office, Fenalco has a few different advantages. We identified the needs of that financial user because the business owner really knows in detail everything about the user. If everyone were to take out their money, we wouldn't have enough funds, right, to work. So that trust between business owners and their clients is very important. So we have the advantage of capillarity. In terms of what the DANE has covered, in the middle office and the back office, which is a task that our ally needs to do, we have also big advantages. Usually they'll take all the info from risk takers, and hopefully we'll have a different profile risk, and that will allow us to reach the base of the pyramid because of that massive capillarity that we have access to, and that we mitigate that banking fraud fear that exists at the moment. We want to operate online and receive the information immediately and creating that risk profile immediately that traditional banking doesn't have, so that we have costs straight away so we can reach an optimal scale economy. This is very important because of the profile of the viewers here today. What attributes or conditions should our ally have in this scheme? Yep, I'd like to complement what Carlos just mentioned around the attributes that our ally needs to have, and is understanding risk, operating capacity, wanting to understand and reach innovation. It's not just a need for us, but a must. Our ally needs to be able to recognize that now, regardless of leading with and going towards formality. We need to understand how our society works, how our consumers work, and we cannot just hope to slowly turn into formalization. We need to understand the appetite for risk, sensibility, operating capacity, anchoring, not only in terms of credit. Of course, the conventional sector is looking at financial inclusion and microcredits. We also want to turn that around and think about savings, investments, and the different products, not only credit. And it's not only if you're a formal business owner, you're in the commerce chamber, do you have electronic invoicing? That's not the only market that we want. We want to increment the anchoring capacity, an appetite for risk. Everything, of course, with the basis of innovation. We are looking at services and products that we cannot even imagine at the moment. I also want to include that power that our ally needs to understand the business and how we can reach all different sectors and different populations in Colombia, because the first thing that reaches a small village in Colombia is a corner shop, not even traditional banking. We have to understand commerce and business as that power that can transform the world. That is something that we saw with Mr. Rafael España, because eventually we'll have resources, we'll have liquidity, we might have to need more alliances. Of course, the technology needs to be robust, but it exists. So we need an ally that has a vision and a capacity to understand the disruption that we are facing today. There's different sectors in Colombia and the state, in Bogota, that we haven't maybe reached, but the commerce and the business exists. There are businesses that have a reality that we interpret and understand properly. Of course, there's a model of social inclusion and mobility, and social mobility and financial inclusion. The central topic of this innovation. Carlos, how can we jump and bridge those those technological gaps, so that everyone, different profiles, different ages, different regions, small, big towns, cities, how can we make all of them be able to access these technologies? It's a very simple, short answer. The technology, we can only move it through people. That means that every corner shop will receive, will be taught how to download the app, how they can manage it, how can they use biometrics to be able to do transfers or any banking processes very quickly. Any additional comments? Technology allows for more effectiveness, more efficiency, lower rates, because if that business helps us reach those very small corners, that allows for efficiencies in the model, because how much is it for a traditional banking to reach all those small corners of the country. That's where commerce and businesses are very close to every single one, every single person, not only territorially or physically, but they actually know the people. And that's what that detonates the success of this model. The number of requisites, formalities also makes the transactional more expensive. So innovation and technology reduces and even removes those costs for transactions. Of course, rates will be more competitive, access will be a lot more fluid. Beatriz, you were saying before that you talked about products, but we've got a very clear question. What are the products that would be changed to this model that Fenalco is proposing? Well, Fenalco will manage different stages, and scaling credit will be the biggest protagonist in this first stage. Credit in all its models, consumer credits, free investments, credit cards, mortgages, investment capital, anything that is financing for businesses, but also that reaches the end user. Business owners, those corner shops are the axis of their communities, that those little business owners have very close proximity to end consumers. Of course, making decisions for their own families. So we want credit not only for businesses, but also for homes. We know that one of the biggest goals of the agenda for this government is to push forward credit in the base of the pyramid. It hasn't been easy, of course. Whilst we do have big options, credits are not reaching that base. So, of course, we want to reach and bring credit to all of the layers. And there's new models of credit. There's also important credit for the agribusiness sector. And then there's insurance in all its different forms and shapes, remittance. That's also very important for us. It represents a very important income for families and commerce. For families, for businesses, anything that's related to investment, savings. It's savings that are personalized, that is special for that corner shop owner that need the saving and need something for a couple of days later, or big savings, say for someone who is saving for the education of their children, for their retirement. Everything regarding savings for the life cycle of a consumer. We're also talking about payroll advances. It's, of course, a very important banking product. Anything that's payment platforms. A lot of fintech today are focused on transactions, payment transactions. And we want to close that purchasing cycle and credit cycle in a fantastic way. And I think that's that first stage that we want to work on. Of course, there's 30-something different verticals of the businesses. We see dentists, funeral services, holidays, shoes, bedding, that click very well with embedded financing. There's a lot of areas, of course, that factoring, that has a very big push at the moment because of electronic invoicing. and say, instead of putting your savings into a traditional banking, there's different businesses, like, say, a small owner, seamstress, that we could also maybe just invest in her particularly. Apologies, Carlos, go ahead. These lines that Beatriz is talking about are general lines, but they're not limiting lines, because our ally, of course, will have a lot of weight and a lot of say in what they identify as projects with more potential, what experience they have, whether they already have an app that has been developed. Of course, everything that we work on depends on the profile that our ally has. The common denominator of these products is that we push towards financial inclusion. We have dealt, usually we just say financial inclusion is that they have a savings bank account and a credit. But that's not financial inclusion. It means that you have a product, you use that product, and that the user of that product receives well-being. So what we expect is that we have financial inclusion where we have a product, everyone uses that product, and that product truly benefits the end users of the product. And of course, that's why we talk about tailor-made products. It's incredible how under insurance we have the same policies for a painting company or a brick company. Say if you ride your bike and you have your bike insured, very few people can insure their bikes or their vehicles. We need to understand that, say, a corner shop owner could have an insurance for 3 days, or they could have weekly insurances, because the base of the pyramid lives on a day-to-day basis. And that's something that we can only do with data and the knowledge that's behind, with AI models. Of course, we haven't talked about open data or open finance, but I'm sure that we'll talk about it later on. But that's something that we will be able to understand, and that we need to understand how a regular person works or lives on a day-to-day basis. How much are they paying for public transport? How much they pay for gas? How much they pay for food? That will allow us to understand better what they need. It doesn't mean, credit offer is already invented. We need to tie it up to the needs of those end users that we will have. Luis Fernando, financial inclusion or potential financial inclusion opens up the space for the products that we could work with, like Beatriz was saying. But Fernando, our operating ally needs to have a banking license to be able to operate in Colombia, as it has been established by the regulating entities. Not really. In the first stage, not really. Of course, we'll need to understand the framework and in terms of capturing information and savings, and we'll probably need the current license, or work with someone who's already been linked to lawmakers. We need to understand norms in terms of knowing the user, the client, the need to assess or study the user before they become a client. In terms of the license, we have clear frontiers in terms of specific products. There's, of course, others where we would need to adjust. we're talking about bridging the gap in technologies. How do Fenalco and the ally can work through time and working on the model? Silverio, this would be a formal relationship. It should be about a 20-year relationship. That's not exclusive. That is exclusive. The stakeholders would be Fenalco and the ally, and each one of us would put something in. Fenalco would bring in capillarity, risk mitigation, of course. With capillarity, we mean every corner shop, any business owners, they understand the people that, their users, their consumers. It's a very efficient mechanism that includes informality so that they can, even though they might not have a general balance, they might not be declaring their income, we could include them. And it's a big generating information that we can include in the scheme. We can mitigate the fear because how confident and comfortable the user is with the business owner. They know each other. So that capillarity also helps us with mitigating risk, because we could cover, because of the physical presence and the close knowledge, saying crediting score isn't necessarily linked to the history of credit, but knowing of what they do, what they're doing, what their habits are. That can only happen if you're physically close to the end consumer. So, of course, this can be used for the embedded products. Mitigation also means that retailers have a lot of information that they keep from every credit or debit card transaction, any till transaction that happens that could allow for credit generation at one click, or predicting consumer habits very quickly. It means a business, it's about $5 for a business to get a new client, but for a bank it's $300. So we have to put together the financial muscle and the technological muscle together, bringing those resources for risk takers so that we can reach that base of the pyramid and in an efficient way. And of course, the technological muscle can help in every transaction where we don't need where the operating leverage is very low, the rate is very low. And of course, we need that the ally would receive 100% of the income long term. I would also bring in the ally would operate 100% the model. They would administrate the technology, the model, the risk model. They will be autonomous in terms of the credit decisions that they make, what rates, all the terms that they can decide, and they will be the first beneficiary. That's what I want to highlight. But they also are taking the risk. In embedded finances, the credit risk is lowered quite a bit. The costs are lowered, and those savings are then pushed towards the client in their interest rates. That's very clear. And of course, what we are putting forward is the understanding of the financial sector and the user sector, understanding the user, the clients, and that intelligence allows us to reach very quickly our end users. It takes a very long time for an entity to understand the end user. So what Fenalco has is the knowledge of businesses and that the closeness.
Beatriz, so the innovation is going to allow us to conclude that this corner shop owner in Suba or in Kennedy or El Codito, these neighborhoods in Bogota. I'm sorry, go ahead. Beatriz, I have this question. It has this whole operative component. So people are interested in participating, regardless of them being financial groups or not, being them national or foreign. How can they enroll to participate? How can they get to know the process and the steps they will have to follow after they enroll? So we have mentioned this throughout this forum. You have seen this slide that has displayed, giving you instructions. You have to go to Fenalco site. You will find this button of embedded finances, and you and everybody who's interested and who feel that they have what they need to participate in these models of embedded finance based in open data and artificial intelligence, hand in hand with Fenalco, the best ally for them. Then you push that button and you provide your basic data, and then we have these allies that we think that may have this hunger. People from Asia, from Europe, from Brazil, from Mexico, of course, Colombians as well, that have this capacity to work with us on this model long term. So you provide your data, and then we as project leaders will get in touch with them to go into deeper detail of the information we need. But we will have this process for all the firms that enroll in this process and sign the confidentiality agreements. And after all the paperwork and paying for the participation in this database, we'll have more detailed information that's legal, technical, operative. And now, according to their risk policies, financial risk policies, and their capacity to be ambitious, and also knowing, because it's not the same thing, a company that says, I'll only keep the traditional products, savings, credit, investment. This can be a very short-sighted bet, but some other can participate in different products, in a wider range of products. Each one of them will make their bets, their financial bets. And in terms that maybe Luis Fernando will go deeper into those terms, or maybe farther into the process, we will be sharing that information with you. So they will make this financial proposal to Fenalco, because Fenalco has this value that they are asking for this from this ally, and it is needed to create this capacity is needed by this commerce to be able to be the ally and work with us in developing these strategic communications and risk. All of these components that will need this investment, and we will also need this margin of their income that will be given to Fenalco, because Fenalco needs to be gaining income as well from this. This is like, generally speaking, how it works. Would it be too much, Beatriz, Carlos, and Luis Fernando, if I asked, is there a date where we can officially know who the ally is going to be, or what does this depend on? These processes are very strict regarding the rigors in documentation. We will have these times with this time frame with enough access, and we will have these entities working with us, these prospective allies. They also have their own decision-making levels. They go to their boards, and maybe in 2 or 3 months' time, the process will start moving forward into a different stage. But we want to really move as fast as possible, because we would like to announce at the end of this year what this alliance is going to be that will transform the way we will reach consumers in Colombia, in the way they consume these financial services. And these products that work in the whole of this economy that's composed by 35 sectors. And let me add something. There's this need to invigorate economy, to reactivate our internal product. And this is what's actually moving our country. The base of the pyramid is consuming and is spending every day. They have their needs every day. And we're not trying to assume from an offer perspective, like this is my offer for SMEs. No, but not all the needs are the same. So we're going to talk about this. I will add also that not every woman with an SME is the same as everyone else. And there's something we need to consider, which is that embedded finances will apply this new credit intelligence, because traditional credit scores, aren't as powerful as they used to. So now we have these new variables where we need to understand that risk arises from daily life of a person, from the daily life. Their capacity of making transactions is not just like an employee or an employed person. We have these gray areas and this whole rainbow. Maybe I can say I'm not this or that. Maybe I'm not an employee because from Monday to Wednesday, I go to this place and I work there. And then I have this other work, this other job. So these realities are different. And we need to understand that payment capacity is not measured in income, but in basic things like Beatriz needs to write Transmilenio 6 times a week, twice a day. What does that mean? It makes me a very active subject. And this creates many transactions, many different types of income, and these black, red, gray areas will disappear, and we go into these nuances of information, creating this new credit intelligence. And there's this new way of making financing from the financial world. Like we have these 2 visionaries who anticipated this reality that we are living right now in the world. One of them said, in the end, or in a short time, or in the medium term, every company will end up being a fintech. And another one said that in the short term, embedded finances will reach every person in the planet. So Luis Fernando, there's no doubt that Fenalco has a very long experience of their relationships with business owners and consumers. There have been like this, they have had this long-standing relationship. So this has allowed Fenalco to have alliances with different actors from different sectors, including in finances, some of them. What will happen with these alliances in different fronts? As Silverio said, Fenalco, as a guild, and to benefit their affiliates, has made alliances. Like, for example, last year we ended this alliance, and considering embedded finances, this is a very different dimension. It's very different to what we have had before in, like, for example, in this relationship that was ended last year. So we're ready to look into this perspective, this new reality that's different to what we have been having for a very long time. So the results of this previous alliance has left very good things, a lot of lessons learned, things to improve. There's lots of room for improvement, and the sales, about how the sales were for our allies. These are the alliances we like.
This guild allows us to put into practice that capillarity that we have accumulated over time. So that's very important. I would also like to add that Fenalco has always had alliances. Over our 70 plus years, we've had different alliances across all different sorts of fronts. We have an important alliance with a bank, for instance, at the moment that is very important and very potent, very powerful. Of course, we want to put everything together and pull it up for a new model so that hopefully everyone jumps on board this new model, not only from the financial point of view, but also the non-financial. We have different agreements so that you have cheaper products, or to get the revision for your car serviced. There's so many different options. This is not the last you'll hear from the topic. There's plenty for us to learn and to explain. I'm sure that we'll meet again, but I would like each one of you to say in a couple words a last message that you would like to share with viewers, that of course we want to thank for your kindness and your patience for having us here, because of course the level of viewers hasn't been necessarily the highest. Just to end, Beatriz, yes, just to end, I would like to say that we are at the front of disruption leverage, and we want all our business owners to participate. We see that fintech technologies and businesses have the biggest range, the biggest reach, say in users in India. It puts us in front of a reality that we either jump on board this innovation and transformation bus, or we just stay behind. There's a lot of innovating companies that are risk takers, but now if you don't jump on board with disrupting technologies and innovation, you will be left behind. So other than, of course, having a lot of benefits for commerce and for users, we also want to invite business owners to appropriate this technology, because now new poverty is that gap in technology. And that lack of technology, of knowledge in technology, is leaving out people from reaching their biggest potential. So, of course, we want to invite businesses to join this disrupting wave and to join this new model. I would also highlight that this model will really allow for an expansion, a true expansion of the market. We have a lot of different financial offers, fintech, traditional banks, microfinancing, no banking offers, but everything is around the same pie, really. we need to include the embedded finances as that model that allows us to include all markets, because everyone is using the same wallets, so everyone's eating out of the same pie, and we can expand that. Carlos, Severio, what we want to bring to this forum, we think that Fenalco is the one who push forward embedded finances, and we think that Fenalco is the one to do so because Fenalco is the one that has all the businesses that face the end user and the end consumer. And in that way, we are the guild for those who understand and truly know the end user, that speak to the end user, that know their needs, we know their wants, and that's why Fenalco has to be the one doing it. And we are anticipating the future. Luis Fernando, like we heard in politics, please close this. I would like to highlight both what Carlos and Beatriz said. We want to highlight the our project and how there's so many places that we could reach. Bogota is so big that we probably don't know half of it. And the needs and the day-to-day can change, and there's so many opportunities in there, and we won't reach them if we keep doing the same thing. Market is expansive in terms of well-being, progress for each one of the inhabitants of our country. Specifically with Fenalco Bogota, with different sectionals, it is an opportunity so that we develop a country through economy and through our market, not only in financial terms, but I would say that this is a social investment. I would also like to add, and that is that I would like to thank all three of you on behalf of all the viewers, because you have been able to share about this topic that is definitely not easy to explain. So of course, thank you all three of you for your knowledge and everything that you've shared with us so that we can also understand the topic. And for everyone who's listening in, who is participating, thank you so much. And again, we truly thank you for your willingness and your patience in participating and being present here today. Thank you, everyone, and I hope you have a good day. Thank you, everyone. And now we will start a Q&A session, and I'll give the floor to Luisa Ballen so that she can talk to us and explain to us how we'll develop our Q&A, how you can send this to our panelists. Mauricio, yes. In terms of a Q&A, there's two things you need to understand. First thing, we'll answer any questions. Any inquiries, you can write them down in the chat in YouTube. You can find the window either on the right-hand side of your screen or underneath the video, depending on the device that you are connecting from. In a few seconds, our experts will answer those questions. And then very important as well is if you are interested in being the pioneers, the strategic allies for Fenalco, for this embedded finances project, we have a form that you can fill in and you can leave your information there, and our experts will then reach out to you and share the process. In our chat, you can also find the link to this form. The auto model, I will ask our webmaster to please publish the QR code so that you can scan that, and you can also have access to the form through the QR code. You will need to enter your contact details, your email, and in the next few days, our expert group will be in touch with you so that we can start the process that will be the project that will change the financial sector in our country. We have the support of our public sector from the district in Bogota, so we can see that different people have already written down a couple of questions. Of course, if you want to be the pioneers, those allies. And with that, I'll give the floor to Beatriz Villa so that she can answer all the questions. Again, thank you so much for your participation, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, Lisa. We do have a lot of questions. Thank you for everything. Camilo Castillo is asking if this is a project that Fenalco will launch or if they will be just helping fintech. Camilo, this is a project that Fenalco has already launched, and we're just publishing to the public today. And what Fenalco wants is putting that commerce power that they have towards this project. So like we mentioned, Fenalco will do front office, and our developer ally will do the middle office and back office tasks. Everything through technology, of course. So basically, Fenalco, with our closeness with commerce, with our ability to reach the consumer, and that face-to-face transactions that businesses are having with consumers every day, will work together with our ally. We also have a question about total. In terms of credit, who will take the credit risks? Like we mentioned, the ally will be autonomous in terms of instrumentation, credit, safety. They have to find the resources. It is a very ambitious project, of course, because we want to embed different credit lines depending on each commerce segment, SMEs, individuals, families. So they need to have a very important muscle and capacity to be able to create alliances with third parties or different stakeholders, because there's nobody, of course, that has that much versatility of like 20, 15 products in the next few years. So, of course, our ally is responsible for their credit policies, how they will produce their scores, which platforms they will use, which rates they're going to be using. We have another question. What characteristics should our ally have? Luis Fernando, I think you answered that in the panel, but if you could talk about that more.
Thank you for your question, and thank you for all our attendees for your questions and your participation. We have to share this message of what we are looking for in this alliance. Fenalco is participating at a national level, at a local level in Bogota. And this ally must have, of course, this pro experience in payment platforms and this sector. They will need to have these safety protocols in place and all of these operational capacities and financial capacity and Fenalco is also looking for someone who has a great positioning within the market. We need this confidence, this trust. We need a leader, because this is going to help us solve this unsolved need, and we need this ally with this innovation DNA, because this is not a very short-term project. This is a long-term project. We will need financing needs. We will need decision-making needs. We will have these alliance needs. And this is going to be all under the umbrella of Fenalco, and we need to have this, we have to create this trust. And Fenalco needs an ally with these characteristics. So we have this other question. Colombia is moving forward in open data and open finance. Embedded finance and Credebanco and Redeban are integrated banks and co-ops. Is this investment banking from abroad? Can you make it clear? So we are looking for either a national or an international ally that meets the characteristics that Luis Fernando has just mentioned. In this whole topic of embedded finance in Colombia, there is this piece that is missing in order to develop the potential of the market, and is the contact with the final consumer. And this contact, this knowledge of the permanent consumer, is what we have at Fenalco, and we are putting that at the service of this new ally that we're looking for in this long-term relation partnership. And we want to develop this market potential in all these different channels and spaces. Like, we have this final contact with the final consumer. So this investment bank, Carlos is the CEO, and we are in this assessment stage, the initial stage. We need to accompany this project in the structuration, then the assessment, and the ally will need to have this chaining, and we hope to have in the future this national investment bank as well. Beatriz, so this ally can it be a fintech or a bank or an investment bank, or maybe a financial structure? The point is not necessarily to have this specific name for the type of ally that we want, but to meet the specific characteristics that we need. We have this other similar question, and is why do we need just one ally? So I'll give the floor to Luis Fernando, but of course Fernando will only have one ally, but this ally will have to work together with these robust allies of them, these experts, and they need to be licensed to operate in saving and safety. So under this premise that there's this unique responsible, regardless of their ability to create their own alliances, but we are having a partnership with just one ally. And the reality of embedded finances is a very recent thing, and Fenalco has considered that this will work better in the long run with just one ally. So fintech, they operate on WhatsApp and their website to create credit. Why a super app? How will you handle connectivity in distant places? People usually buy WhatsApp packages and not internet packages, for example, mobile data. So the ally will have to have the ability to build all these channels and creating this value offer, and it must be adequate and enough, and they must benefit, and that must benefit their public and their businesses. But then when they start to embed their services, they will decide which services will be added there. During each stage, they will be looking at which things will be included in each stage. Fenalco will work together with their allies and see if they have the capacity to work this way.
We want to improve the ecosystem, the connectivity of the country, because of course we know that those are limiting, and we have to cooperate and we have to live with these. There's a lot of technical questions in terms of biometrics, rules. Of course, we'll build this together, and our ally will have voice in terms of this. Beatriz, I also want to mention, someone mentioned that they wanted to highlight powerful financial inclusion. And that's why we want to invite our ally to have this vision of not only microcredits and having a bank account or having a microcredit. We have to evolve this into new topics that perhaps today we can't even fathom. But we all know that Colombia needs higher levels of savings, and not only in terms of credits or payroll advances. We need a vision of the future that we want to build together with our new ally. Hector Escudero, why just one ally instead of multiple allies? I think we already mentioned that. I don't know if there's anything that you would like to add, Carlos or Fernando. No, I think what we've mentioned already. We want one ally, and that ally, if they think or they identify, Hector, that they want to include within the alliance third parties, other stakeholders, and they think that this will bring more value, they are absolutely free to do so. This offer from Fenalco is not limiting to our ally, and we are completely generous. We are just letting our ally do what they know what to do. If you identify anyone who is better at doing a certain something, other different from you, Carlos was just dropped. But yes, it's the capacity of the ally to understand what value other stakeholders can bring, so that we can add more products to the offer. Of course, we will start with credit products, insurance, savings that can easily join, and later on we'll include remittance, currency exchange, and we'll keep working on everything. Carlos is back. And so, of course, I think we've talked enough about that. There's another question here from Ivan Luna. In terms of remittance, corner shop owners, would they be like new orders, like new bankers? Yes, they would be. They would be points of contact for us. Again, like I mentioned, capillarity. There's 1.2 million points that could be potentially a link for us. We have over 400,000 final shops that are very close with the end consumer. They would have a very important activity. They would assist the end consumer with the technology. They would also help with sales. Of course, work with the ally is to create a scheme that is economically efficient for that corner shop owner or for the business. With Iran again, payroll advances, are they offered as new credits? We are talking about something that has a lot of utility and that will be a protagonist in this phase. However we deal with it, how we deal with those credits, that is what we have to build together with our ally. Of course, we need to have safety, in terms of rates, and it's all about innovation, really. We need to consider the traditional scheme that products have right now and to reinvent what we bring to our end users. And that's a construction, a very careful construction that we have to do, that our ally will have the task to do, but of course that we will be, of course, jumping in and assisting, and we will be an open book so that we can build this together, and we will be very diligent, and we want to have personalized offers, of course, with all the norms and knowing the client and everything. Yes, with all the laws already existing, we also want to include everyone who already has experience in the area, and then we have to include everything that has been built up to now. But we will bring all this information from different sectors, and we want to aim at all the societies that are not necessarily satisfied with conventional products. We also want to invest in alternative assets. We want to talk about investment and savings. We just want to offer alternatives. And I think whoever is here today have all the qualities to perhaps assist with all the attributes that we think are necessary to create this impact nationwide. Ivan, you as a very knowledgeable person for embedded finances, you know that this has been very successful global-wide, because basically if an employee has been working for 2 or 3 days, 5 or 10, we could advance their payroll, giving them a solution, and also generating an efficient credit scheme. So that's a very important power. Rafael also mentioned earlier dynamics within consumption. We understand our reality, and we need to push forward mechanisms that make consuming more dynamic. We also need to, the embedded finances allows for scaling that can allow for payroll advances that perhaps could not happen today. Say if you have 100 people, nobody is going to operate something like that because it will be very expensive and the rates will be extremely high. But embedded finances will allow for something like that. Say if a small business owner, someone who has 1, 2, 3, 5 people under their payroll, they could work in those stages. I also want to highlight that in terms of inclusion, the scaling the volume. Ivan was also talking about biometrics. Will we have geographical biometrics? Who will pay for that? And whether we will comply with certain decrees. Of course, we will decide that on a day-to-day basis, on how each product works on a day-to-day basis. Our ally will be the one who needs to fund their operation. They will see what is transferred to the end consumer, whether the credit study will be transferred to the end consumer. Of course, that will lose a little bit of the appeal. So our ally needs to be very strategic. Fenalco will have a look that it is an efficient offer, but once we have once we've decided and to start the project, each our ally can decide how they would like to go ahead. Again, one or various allies, we already talked about this, Fenalco will only have one ally, but our ally could have different stakeholders, different allies themselves, because of course we need a lot of different things from them. I don't know, Luisa, if there are any other questions. Marta Gomez, I believe.
Can you explain us this about this very small commerce, these small shops, these little this base of the pyramid credit, this very leaning towards the informality. This is very important because we can expand our boundaries, having the capacity to reach the places where traditional banking doesn't go. So the corner shop owners are very useful for this, very helpful, because their clients need credit, because they know that because they are talking every day. And this is very useful information for us, for someone who's looking to provide credit. And also, they will sort of grip this financial consumer, teaching them about that technology, how to use it, how to do things. And finally, in the post-sales, because this is very important in capillarity. Why? Because the biggest fear, the biggest barrier, perhaps, is that people are very scared of virtual transactions, technological transactions, because they think there will be fraud, their data will be stolen, or something bad will happen. And this capacity, this capillarity, lies in having this final consumer of embedded finances. If anything happens very close from where they are, they could go to the point of sale or to the store and ask them about it. So this helps a lot with this fear. This is a very important quality to add to the scheme. And it's precisely this capillarity and this size which makes it very efficient. Marta, you're talking about informal sellers, street vendors. This is something we haven't been able to reach, and there are very bad offers in productive credit. The work hasn't been done yet. People in banks are making an effort, and many stakeholders are saying they want to offer inclusive credit and reaching the base of the pyramid and reaching where the banks haven't reached. And the point is to have the information that will allow us to get to know these shopkeepers or these street vendors. And this chaining will help us find this information we need. So this street vendor is a great example, because if they start to request these products, like the typical products that you'll find on the streets, like chiclets and snacks, and if they start to get in touch with their providers through an app, we will have this information of how much they are buying. This is a very simple exercise. Every week, for example, or every fortnight. So among all the products they are selling, and they are usually very cheap, so if they are buying 4 million pesos and they have 140,000 pesos in earnings every week, so we can start to have this information on the app, on the super app, on the web, or whichever platform they are using, because this is going to be stage by stage. We will have this information that we don't have today. So if Beatriz writes Transmilenio every day, Monday to Friday, morning, afternoon, they are not going to be asking if I'm an employee. What they care about is I have some kind of income. So we will gather this info that we don't have today. And through this platform, we will gather this very valuable information that will help us reach a street vendor, but not with this very long-term credit, but maybe on a weekly basis. Like, for example, what I mentioned about Bogotá Despierta. Maybe we can give them more credit on this specific date and not all the time. This is where the sector knowledge is very important. So I will add to what Beatriz said, inviting our attendees to think about commerce in very distant areas. Like this example is very urban, like this street vendor from Bogotá. But this reality, this unsatisfied need, lies a lot in rural sectors where informality reaches almost 80%. So we need this long-term vision that we are trying to instill into this ally that will work with Fenalco. And why embedded finance reach places that banks don't reach? Because they are cost efficient. Their fixed costs are very low. And studies show there's a lot of potential in embedded finances. Finding a new client for a bank costs $300, and for a small store, is just $5. There's no comparison. Efficiency is very noticeable. So we have this question. I think it's very relevant right now to have this very clear. Camilo Castillo says, so will you lend money to shop owners through their app? No, this is what we have nowadays. It already exists. Embedded finances are coming here to transform the ways we deliver financial products so they can focus on people's daily lives, their basic needs, to help them with what their family needs, their surroundings need, so they can fund their businesses regardless of their size. We want to be horizontal and vertical. We see, for example, within the top 1,000 biggest companies in the country, maybe all of them are affiliates, and they are very important in Fenalco. And then we go all the way to the very small ones, and even to families, like saving for university fees, for example. So this is not to originate credit. Of course, we want better rates and all of that, but this would be a waste of our time and effort. This is ambitious. We need changing here in the value of different financial products within the same offer, so they can all support expenses, creating efficiency, and creating this information that we don't have nowadays. So this probably will be like the first trial, so we can see what works and what doesn't. We can maybe add payroll advances, insurance, and many, many different sectors. So one of the most successful things in embedded finances are what happens when you have this app and you're just driving your car or your motorcycle, you have your insurance, and they can immediately tell you if you are on this street, we have this partner parking lots, and you can have 2 free hours of parking. And then when I go to the app to look for a ticket, they can tell you, plane tickets, they can tell you, okay, you need to exchange dollars, you need currency exchange, so we can provide this for that. This is chaining. It's not traditional credit, it's embedded finance. And it's not only Fenalco app, because our ally will have their own technology, their own super app, their own website. And they will work whichever way they find more effective, more versatile, and easier, and they can more easily reach everybody. It's not going to be the same, the B2B company credit or the credits for individuals or microfinance credits. Carlos and Fernando. And yes, in Colombia, we already have lots of embedded finance initiatives in many products that have been developed, different applications, and so on. What we don't have yet is what Fenalco is offering nowadays. is taking these middle and back office tasks to final consumer, to take all of this to the shopkeepers so they can provide that to their final consumer. These small business owners can encourage their consumers to be part of this scheme, that they show them how to use the app, how to insert their data. This is someone who knows their needs, because this interaction with the final consumer is something that's non-existent nowadays in Colombia, and we are putting that at the service of our ally.
Just to end, they want us to share the steps. We have a few people already that have expressed their interests. We have different stakeholders that we also have on the lookout. We do think there's different stakeholders, different allies, an ally that could put together everyone so that we could build this. The forum is already open. Please feel free to share this with other people. It will be saved in our YouTube page. Feel free to share it with anyone who is not here today, who perhaps could not assist to the session today, with our allies that are already signed up. We are very surprised because we've seen very important players in those forums, and we will reach out to them, Luis Fernando, Carlos, and I, so that we can ask specific questions. We will send some FDAs. Of course, there's a lot of information that we'll be sharing. There will be an entrance fee because of the information that we'll be sharing with you. Once we have a data pool, we will share more information with you. Luis Fernando, Carlos, I don't know if there's anything else that you'd like to say before we end, but thank you, everyone. I just want to thank everyone. I want to motivate everyone in terms of what it is to build our country for the next 20 years in the dynamics of economy and the dynamics of the social networks. Carlos, yes, I would also like to thank the participation of everyone who is viewing today. This is a forum that is directed to people who know about the topic. Of course, 90% of what we've shared is not new to you, but there's a good 10% that could be new and that is very interesting for you, and that we hope makes this event very successful. And what Fenalco wants is to choose that ally that is the most ideal, and an ally that will allow this project to truly impact our country and to truly push for inclusion. Well, and with that, we look forward to reaching out to all of you. We want to thank you all for your interest and for joining us today. I hope you have a good day. We will then end this forum today about embedded finances. We want to thank everyone who is interested in this very ambitious project, and we want you to invite you to walk with us together. We also remind you that this forum will be recorded and you can share it with your work groups. It will be saved in our Fenalco YouTube channel, and the team that Luisa presented will be reaching out to amplify the information and to share with you all the steps to follow in the future. Again, thank you so much for participating in this forum, and we hope that you have a good day inspired by this new project and this ideal that we'll have in the future.